I was only 18 when this happened. I was walking home from work late at night, all by myself, as I had no one to pick me up. I didn't even have a phone at the time. The worst part of it all was that it was 1 o'clock in the morning. The only good thing I had going for me was that it was less than a mile of a walk. It usually takes around 10 minutes for me to get home on a night like this. I was sick and tired, just coming down with the onset of a cold, and on top of that, it was freezing outside. Literally freezing. It was probably below freezing. I'm from Wisconsin, and it was the start of February, so it was cold, let me tell you. I swear I was only walking for maybe 2 minutes before a truck rolled up behind me, and I thought, great. It stopped right behind me, and he was a mid-30s, frail-looking man. Hey cutie, you need a ride? It's freezing out here. I have the heat on in the truck. I looked at him with disgust and shook my head. Even though it was slightly tempting, I couldn't get myself to do that. That's extremely dangerous, and I know better than to get into a car late at night with a strange man. Even if he was only trying to help, I never would have known, but I really didn't want to take that risk. Suit yourself then, he said. Then he drove away, seemingly offended, but I was just glad he was gone. I mean, if I knew for a fact he wasn't going to hurt me, I would consider letting him take me home, but I really didn't feel like putting up with a random creepy man anyways. All the compliments and weird flirtatious remarks, yeah, that's a no for me. About 2 minutes later, he rolled back around, coming from the opposite way this time. I only had about 4 or 5 minutes left to walk at this point. I was pretty scared to see him again. Like, what does he want now? I had a horrible feeling this time. He rolled up right next to me again, on this long stretch of road. You know, I was doing some thinking. Did you not accept a ride from me because you think I'm sketchy or something? Is it because of the way I look? Because if so, that's pretty messed up. No, I said with confusion. I'm sorry if I offended you. I just don't know you, and I only have a few minutes left to walk anyways. Where are you going? He mumbled. Just to the apartment complex, down there off of Brady Road, I said. Hey, that's where I'm headed too. Why don't you just hop in? At this point, I was just annoyed and over with being cold. The chances of him trying to hurt me were pretty low. At least that's what I told myself anyway. I told him that I would let him take me home. He then jumped out of his truck with a deranged amount of excitement, like a little kid almost. I don't know how to explain it, it was weird. That right there gave me the ick and almost made me change my mind. He walked over to my side and opened the door for me, then he told me to get in. He walked back to the driver's seat, and in the meantime, just as I was about to get in, I saw a pistol under the passenger seat, along with a pair of handcuffs in plain sight in the middle console. I didn't even say anything after this, and I just booked it. I didn't scream, I just ran. I ran like hell through a nearby cornfield that was honestly a shortcut to my apartment anyways. I heard him screaming at me, and he was calling me all sorts of names while burning rubber, and he disappeared without a trace. He didn't try chasing me. When I got home, I told my roommate everything, and she wanted me to call the police, but I never did. Maybe that was bad on my part and stupid of me, but I was honestly so tired and shaken up. I just wanted to be home in my bed and finally relax after all this in my long day. I don't think he was going to my apartment originally either. He was definitely just making that up in an attempt to lure me in his truck. I should have listened to my gut and stuck with my word and never even considered getting in that truck. It's definitely a lesson learned. I was 23 years old and fresh out of college. I was just trying to make ends meet by working the third shift at a rundown gas station in a rough part of my middle-sized town. It was the kind of place that had seen better days, surrounded by flickering streetlights that barely did their job, and we attracted all sorts of degeneracy. The night was cold and quiet. As the time passed slowly, I found myself being the only worker left. Jim, Kyle, and Melissa had been long gone for the night, so it was up to me to hold down the fort. I didn't have to work the third shift very often at all, which was a good thing, because I hated doing third shift. It was always when the most sketchy shit would happen, and I knew this from Melissa. I was covering for her this night, and she knew about it all firsthand from years of experience. It was just me and the distant hum of the refrigerators. I couldn't help but wonder why I'd taken this job in the first place, but bills needed to be paid, and this was the only work I could find at the time. Around 2 a.m., two bare-bones-looking men on motorcycles pulled into the gas station. They were older biker men, the kind you'd see in a gritty crime drama, or maybe a run-down dive bar. One of them had a long, scraggly beard, and the other had a scar that ran from his cheek to his ear. They looked like they'd been through hell and back. I tried to be polite though, giving them a nod as they approached. "Hey, how can I help you guys tonight?" The scarred one, who I later learned was named Dennis, grinned at me with a crooked smile. "Fill her up, kid. I'm on pump 6, he said, tossing me a crumpled $10 bill. The other, who went by the name Bob, simply stared at me with a cold, calculating gaze. When I gave them their change back, Bob spoke in a low, menacing tone. "Kid, you see a lot of crazy shit working here, don't you?" I nervously nodded, feeling a growing sense of unease. "Yeah, you could say that," exhaling the sickly, sweet stench of whiskey. "You ever see things you're not supposed to see here?" I shook my head, trying to inch away from them. "I don't know what you mean," I said. Bob's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist with a grip that felt like a vice. "You sure about that, kid? Because we've been watching you. We've seen you talking to the wrong people." Panic set in as I realized they knew more about me than they should. It was as if they'd been following me and I had no idea why. "Look, I don't want any trouble. I'm just trying to do my job," I said. It actually made my skin crawl. "Kid, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time." Bob released my wrist, and before I could react, they both lunged at me. The world spun as a flurry of punches and kicks rained down on me. Blood oozed from my nose and my vision blurred. In my dazed state, I felt them digging through my pockets, taking my phone and wallet. "This will teach you not to mess with things you don't understand," Bob hissed. They left me on the ground, battered and bruised, as they revved their motorcycles and sped away into the night. I lied there for a minute, gasping for breath, trying to make an understanding of what just happened, and my body was aching from the beating. After I mustered the strength to get up, I knew I had to report the incident to the police, but the fear of retribution lingered. Those bikers had left an indelible mark on me, a chilling reminder to not mess with people like them. I still don't know what I did to piss them off, though. I honestly think they just enjoyed messing with me. Working late nights at the gas station was always eerie, but nothing could have prepared me for the horror that unfolded on this night. As I counted the minutes until the end of my shift, I grew restless and even more bored than usual. At 25, I thought I had seen my fair share of challenges. But what awaited me that night was beyond anything I could imagine as I stood behind the counter, absently rearranging the snacks. I noticed a shadowy figure lingering near the gas pumps. A chill ran down my spine when I recognized the silhouette. It was him. The man who had stalked and harassed me on and off for years. My heart quickened, and I could feel the beads of sweat forming on my forehead as he sauntered into the store. His presence alone was suffocating, and memories of his past harassment flooded my mind. I tried to keep my composure, reminding myself that I was no longer the vulnerable target he once knew. But as he approached with a sinister smile, I knew I was wrong to underestimate the fear he could instill. "What a coincidence seeing you here," he sneered. The revelation that I was now single seemed to fuel his predatory intentions. He faked a sense of familiarity, acting as if he was my boyfriend after returning from a long absence. Panic set in as he refused to take no for an answer when I insisted I was uninterested in rekindling any kind of connection. The atmosphere grew tense, and I felt the weight of his aggression escalating. The air thickened, and I felt like I was going to pass out from a mixture of anxiety and being overheated. Desperation must have gripped him, and his attempts to coerce my phone number turned into a violent struggle. In an instant, he lunged towards me and grabbed me and dragged me out to his car. He began hitting me and yelling at me to stop screaming. He tried pushing me in, but luckily I was able to put up a good enough fight. Just as I was about to lose all hope, a guardian angel in the form of a passerby bursted out of his car. The stranger, sensing the urgency of the situation, courageously intervened. A huge fight broke out between the two, and I bore witness to the whole thing. The man who rescued me was a much bigger guy and easily de-escalated the situation. With a final resounding blow, he sent my stalker running away into the night. I stood there, trembling but also grateful, as the man helped calm me down and call the police. He even stayed to give a statement and his side of the story. The whole thing was caught on camera, and the police were able to see he was only trying to protect me, meaning he did no wrong. Unfortunately, I don't know my stalker's name, and the police couldn't seem to ID the man enough through the shitty cameras. So he's still out there somewhere. I had to quit my job because I was terrified he's going to come back. Even now I have to wonder if he knows where I live. He's never showed up to my house, but I didn't think he knew where I worked either.